everybody's favorite streaming accompaniment, Multiviewer, Mr. Multiviewer.
Right? I built this thing for myself.
That's
right?
wonderful.
At first, I didn't even intend this to be available for anyone else. Right? I built it literally for myself. It was only when I added the data overlays where I was like, okay, it would be criminal not to release this. As so many individuals within the F1 community have been so helpful, spreading the word. They didn't have to, right? But they did.
It has been lovely talking with you. We've covered a lot of topics, and it's been very eye-opening.
Welcome back to Gravel Trap F1.
I'm Christina.
And I'm Caroline.
There was no race this weekend,
but we've got a wild guest for you.
The brilliant mind behind the popular Multiviewer app joins us today.
We're going to talk about all the magic it takes to get you every angle and all that data onto your screen.
But first, we want to give a shout out to our amazing listeners and give you the results to our listener polls we put up online.
This is going to be fun.
Each episode, we include a poll question for our Spotify listeners, and those polls stay open for about a month. Here's some of the results from your feedback.
In episode 3, we interviewed the esteemed pit lane twins, where they talked about all the different kinds of experiences you can have at a Grand Prix, depending on where in the world you are. We asked you, quote, what kind of F1 experience is best? Do you prefer an adventure theme park, or just the race cars, please, or a little bit of both? And 100% of you voted a little bit of both. We love a little party. We love a little race car.
The mullet. People voted for the mullet.
The mullet. No.
That's what I'm going to call it from now on.
Little party in the front. No, wait. Business in the front, party
in the back.
Party in the back.
That's what yeah.
That was the summary of the vote. I love that so much.
Oh, that's so good. But to be fair, I don't feel like either of us have experienced a race weekend that isn't a little bit of both.
True, because we've only experienced the American ones, but I would be curious to experience some of the European ones, because that's what the twins were saying. It was the European ones that don't have that adventure theme park vibe.
In our first episode, we reflected on the opening race in Bahrain and asked you which of the 3 rookies on the grid you expected to finish higher in the points this year. Piastri, Sargent, or De Vries. For Piastri, there was 30%. Sargent 10%, and De Vries with a whopping 60%.
Which is interesting to me. I feel like looking at things now, it's kind of hilarious. And I am also grateful that the stat was included in the description that this was closed after a month, because I think if anybody voted on this today, I don't know that they would vote De Vries. Like,
true.
I don't know, but I'm also a Piastri fan. So I'm like, obviously Oscar Piastri.
Yeah.
Even though the McLaren is not the best McLaren they've ever produced.
It's a McLaren that they've produced.
It is. And in their defense, we've seen some points in the last couple of races. So maybe there's a bounce back.
To give you the standings, Piastri has 5 points. De Vries has 0 points, and Sargent has 0 points.
Yeah.
Oscar.
But again, the thing to remember, the thing that makes the midfield and the back of the field so interesting is they literally just need one good weekend, one stellar weekend, and it changes everything.
That's so true. And honestly, reading some of these makes me think about, you know how they did the resolution thing last year and they had all the drivers put the little predictions. And then at the end of the year, they like read their predictions that they had for the year. And Charles's was so depressing.
Bad.
It was so sad. It was so depressing.
So bad.
Good times. Good times.
Oh.
Well, all right.
Next.
In episode 8, after Baku, we talked about the origins of that track's design and that the intention of this street circuit was to, quote, be like Monaco, but better, end quote, in terms of the racing. So we asked you if you thought they had achieved that goal. 66.7% of you said oh yeah, they totally achieved the goal. 33.3% of you said not even close. And my question is, how many of these people voted were George Russell fans and how many were Max Verstappen fans? That's what I want to know. Because I think it might have impacted the vote.
Just a smidge. Oh, Princess George. He has side pods
George.
now.
He has side pods.
Max can drive into them.
And maybe Max can return the favor. Yes, he can return the favor. But yeah, interesting that so many of you guys thought it was like Monaco, but better in Baku.
After our episode Penalty Boxing following the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, we discussed George Russell getting P3 over Alonso after Alonso was given a penalty, only for that penalty to get reversed over 3 hours after the race, resulting in Alonso ultimately receiving P3 and the trophy getting hand-delivered by Mercedes the following day. We asked you if you thought podium ceremonies should be delayed if pending penalty decisions could alter the outcome. And because nobody listening to this show is absolutely crazy, everybody answered yes.
It's the obvious answer.
It is.
If it's gonna be like podium changing, why would you not like what? Here's my question. What else do you have planned after the race that you need to like get everything cleaned up for to delay the podium ceremonies? I understand broadcasting reasons that they probably have things they need to broadcast after, sure, but also make sure that the ending is the correct ending.
Yeah.
Although it does make for some pretty good content when George Russell is out here like hand delivering this trophy over to Aston Martin.
That's very true. But also, I feel like in some other sports, there's like the statute of limitations. And correct me if I'm wrong, but there's only X amount of time where like you can protest a penalty. And it seems wild to me that stewards can take as long as they want to make some of these decisions. It's like, I'm sorry, that happened X number of laps ago. If you did not catch it then, it gets a pass.
Yeah.
Like,
moment over. You don't get to decide anymore. The people have decided for you. Move
exactly.
on.
If you missed it, whoop, too bad.
Exactly. All right, Buck, hit us with slide 6.
Now, we want to take a moment and give a shout out to you, our listeners from all around the world. Thank you all so much. Your feedback and support has been amazing. Now, naturally, we're very curious about who you are, like who likes listening to our show. One of our primary objectives was to appeal to newer North American Formula One fans, but we also wanted to entertain those longtime fans from all corners of the globe. So, here are some stats that we're able to see here on the back end. Not surprisingly, 63% of you hail from North America, so Canada, US, Mexico. Our top cities, depending on whether you're looking at Apple or Spotify statistics, are Seattle, Washington, and a small town here in California called Windsor, just north of me, actually. So whoever you are up there in Windsor, really appreciate it. Maybe we'll hold a Gravel Trap Social Club meetup down here in the Bay Area. I can have you all join us. Going international, the United Kingdom makes up 9% of our audience, Australia 6%, Norway 2%. And there isn't much data I can see on the rest of the world, but it does give me a list of other countries where we do have listeners. And that list of countries includes Uruguay, Poland, Nigeria, Trinidad and Tobago, and even the famed Isle of Man, where they have that wild motorcycle race. I just think it's really cool that we got people from all these interesting places tuning in to listen to us each week.
That's so cool. Thanks, guys. We love you.
Much love.
I want to give you all a hug through this microphone.
So this week, listeners, we are talking with Multiviewer. If you're unaware of what the Multiviewer app does, it allows you to link up with F1TV Pro and get multiple views. You can have your setup with multiple driver onboards, you can have your data screen, and you can have the main stream all at your fingertips. And we are here today with Mr. Multiviewer.
Yes, the brains behind.
Welcome to the podcast.
Well, I feel very welcome already.
Excellent. So, right off the bat, what brought forth the idea to have the app that would allow us to see everything we could possibly want when we're watching an F1 race?
Right. Well, so I think before I started Multiviewer, there were other apps out there that did similar things, right? So there was an app called F1Viewer. And before F1 introduced DRM, which basically prevented all these apps from using the videos with normal video players, this app used to allow you to play multiple videos at the same time. So it was kind of like a multi-viewer. And I always had the idea to build something on top of that to show the live timing data on top of those videos. I thought that was really cool. And I thought it could be a really unique feature. But I never really got around to that. And I thought it was working quite well. And then F1 decided to break all of it and introduce DRM, which basically is a protection on top of the video that makes it difficult for people to copy it or share it on Discord, right? That was a big thing that they were struggling with. And fair enough, right? That's a good way to prevent that. It's not foolproof, but it is pretty good. Is a better protection than nothing. But it also broke a bunch of these third-party apps, and they were really great because F1TV's own applications across all platforms are, let's say, not the best. And so when they introduced the DRM, I was like, well, that sucks, because that was just how I enjoyed F1, right? And y'all know, like, if you have a way to enjoy F1, you don't want to lose that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So my first instinct was like, okay, let's look for someone who can fix this. And so I was looking online because all of these apps most of these apps were open source, right? And developed by multiple people. And so I thought, okay, the community must come together and fix this, right? So I waited it out for maybe like a month after they introduced DRM. Didn't really move a lot. So like they were struggling with finding a solution to make it work on desktop. I think the Apple TV app relatively quickly had something figured out because that platform supported DRM playback because Netflix also uses that there, right? But for like a desktop application, there wasn't really anything out there. So yeah, at that point I was like, okay, can I do this? And I gave it a try. I was looking up all of the technologies that I would need to use because DRM playback is meant to be very difficult for other people, right? Luckily, though, I found all of the necessary technologies that I needed to get an app out of the ground, basically. I think 2-3 weeks after I started developing the initial application, I had multi-stream playback working, and I could get and this was just in the evenings, right? I wasn't working full time on this. At that point, I was like, okay, this is cool. Now I want to get the data in because that's what was my idea from the very beginning. I wanted to add that so badly. And when I had that mostly working, I announced this on the R Formula One TV subreddit. And and people were just crazy about it. They were like, this is amazing. I need this, right? They were not just happy that there was something new that finally worked again, but it was not just a replacement for, but it was something more than that. It offered both video and data, which no app had done before, right? Not even Formula One's apps. And I guess we'll go into that later, but that is something that I cannot understand.
So when you went out and tried to, or notifying people on Reddit that you had made this, were you ever contacted by other developers who were kind of in the process as well and being like, oh, you struck gold. I've been beating my head against the wall with this. And
you would think so, but no, I was never contacted by any other developer. I will say, so what I've been told from other people is that journalists, right, who are watching the races and need to like investigate what happened. And so there's a lot of journalists using it as well, just to look at incidents and be able to view it from different angles and all at the same time, all synced, right? And there's also a Formula One team that uses it.
Mm-hmm. That's what I've heard as well.
Yeah.
So when these larger groups and teams use Multiviewer, are you being adequately compensated for them using your program?
Well, so it's a free program, right? So everyone can use it if they want to. So just like the teams, if they want to use it, it would just be like you or me trying to use the service, so they can use it for free. There's people supporting it via donations, but yeah, no, they don't have to. And I don't believe anyone of the team that are. There's one team currently that I know is using it after the race, right? So it's not being used on the pit wall because there's just too much delay for that, right? Formula One is a live sport, right? So every second counts. And I think even with a live timing, which is very live, there's still like a few seconds delay, and that's too much for them. But there might be a point where they are like, hey, what if we would get sort of the same interface? And at the HQ, they will actually be watching all of the onboards for all of the drivers. And they actually have interns, I think, transcribing all of the radios as well by hand, because that's super important, right? They need to know what's happening. They need to know who's boxing. There's screenshots I have of the team's setups in the garages, and you can see they use RaceWatch, which is the software that they are using. Most of the teams use it. And you can see the radio transcriptions in there. And you can also really tell that is not what they said. So it must be done manually. But we're now working with volunteers in the community who are labeling radios from F1. Currently, it's very basic, right? We just want to know when they're saying something. Not what they're saying, but when they're saying it. To train our voice activity detection. Because we need to know when there's voice activity on the radio, because there's a lot of engine noise as well. Right, and sometimes the engine noise is almost the same volume as the engineer's or the driver's voice, and so we need an algorithm that is able to filter out the noise and then be able to tell us when someone is speaking. Currently, I think we've labeled maybe 3 or 4 sessions worth of data. So that's like 20 drivers across 4 sessions, which is pretty good. It's not amazing, but it's amazing that a community can come together and label all that data for us, right? It shows how passionate some of our community members are. But that is going to help us tons with detecting when they're speaking, because a lot of the funny radios people post on Twitter that we have transcribed, Hamilton saying his name over and over again, for instance, that is just us feeding engine noise into the AI, and the AI basically hallucinating and being like, oh, I think he said Hamilton over and over again.
Oh, yeah. Well, we've talked a little bit about how like developing this for working with F1 TV has happened. But now you've also rolled out IndyCar, WEC, and are those the only? NASCAR. That's the fourth one. Yeah. Thank you. With F1 TV, you have this really neatly packaged platform, it feels like, to work with. How different is it with the other series where it feels a little bit more piecemeal of where you're going to get your stream from?
Yeah. So I would say F1 TV as a platform is probably the best thing out there right now. I've looked at a lot, right? More than the ones that I've implemented so far. I've looked at a bunch of other platforms as well to see if I could implement them or what the options would be. Like Multiviewer users are asking every day, like, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? There's a lot of platforms that they would want to be added to Multiviewer as well. If we're looking at other platforms, this weekend we had WEC, which did the 24 Hours of Le Mans, and they're using a platform, Sportal. It's a French software development company who does that for some other leagues as well. And their platform is less refined. Is the most most proper way to describe it. At the very start of the weekend, when they were doing the first practice sessions, qualifying, whatever, they basically DDoS themselves.
With things like NASCAR and what do you say, Christina?
IndyCar
and WC. Everything's packaged in F1 TV, that all the video feeds are coming through this one platform. With those other ones, are you having to pull like the broadcast feed from one digital source and then the car feeds from some other source you've accessed and stuff like that. How are you parsing that out for the users there?
Right. So that depends a little bit per platform. I think for NASCAR, they don't have a over-the-top streaming service, right? That's what the industry calls platforms that run over the internet, over the public internet. They just work with cable TV. There's been rumors. I don't know how true they are, but that they are going to be transitioning to their own platform soon. Soon being in the next 10 years, right? So how soon is that really? But for these companies, that's soon, right? Because they're like dinosaurs that have existed forever. But I do think that like having their own platforms is going to be the future. I think F1 did really well, right? Liberty Media basically did really well because let's be honest, that's not F1, that's Liberty interfering with things. I think the exclusive content that you get to watch on F1 TV is great. I think they're upping the quality of the shows as well. I know not everyone watches those shows, but they are really getting better, which I think is a good sign of them taking the platform seriously and wanting to improve it.
Yeah. Plus you get F2 and F3, which is lovely. And next year F1 Academy.
Finally. Thank goodness.
Yeah. I'm assuming F1 Academy. That hasn't been confirmed. I'm assuming.
Right. Let's hope we get F1 Academy. I just don't understand. It seems like they have everything they need to stream. Like they have the camera set up. They have the commentator. And as far as I can see, Harry Benjamin is doing this live because he sometimes posts like images from him in the booth just before the race, right? So that must be done live, not after the fact.
Yeah.
So if that's all being done, there's also a portal for press, as far as I know, to watch it. So it's being produced live as well. So everything seems set up. I think, and I've been very vocal about this on social media. I think it's a legal issue that they're in, and it might be with Sky or other broadcasters that maybe claim that they own the rights to F1 Academy. It might have something to do with the support races, right? Because they're usually support acts basically for other larger events. And so maybe there's broadcasting issues there. But the way that they handled that whole debacle of like not telling fans what they could expect and then still like updating them about like, oh, this is the sport and this is the amount of races and these are the teams, right? And then give them nothing, right? I don't understand. I don't think that's the right thing to do. I think it's a shame for the amazing drivers that are driving in that series.
My general understanding of it as well is that it was rushed forward a little bit because they were anticipating W Series to still have one more year. So they were planning, I believe, to launch F1 Academy next year.
Right.
Yeah, and this is very speculative. Like I can't recall if I've had this fully confirmed or if this is just like in my mind. I'm definitely a little frustrated as well that, you know, we can't get the broadcasting, but I know that it's coming next year, which I'll give them that little bit of grace because it does seem like this was a bit more of a rushed project, but also this is a single seater that's essentially at F4 level-ish. Right. And you know, the broadcasting that those series get is also fairly goose egg-ish. So I think that's also why I'm not particularly upset about it, is that, you know, if they were getting so much more publicity compared to other F4 series, I think that's also unfair because they're at the start of their karting careers and they don't necessarily need all that pressure on them when other people at that similar level don't get that pressure.
No, that's right.
Can I switch gears here real quick? I've been thinking about something. A lot of people play the F1 game.
Right.
Is there
F1
any...
23, right?
Yeah, which I think comes out today.
Now, but
yeah. Well, 23 comes out today or tomorrow. And I've had somebody build a telemetry app for me so that I could display certain the data that's kind of driven your purpose for creating this. Have you looked into tapping into the game's telemetry data and seeing if there's some kind of overlay you can provide your users who play the game that might be able to extract more data out of that and while they're playing and stuff?
Right. So I will say I've looked into it, but I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. I will also admit I have said that about WEC. So it's no guarantees, right? It might just be there tomorrow and people can just use it. I have looked into iRacing, which is obviously a little bit more professional, I guess. I think the racing drivers, like Max, I know uses iRacing or prefers iRacing to anything else because he's been on it, telling this other company to not get any exclusive rights anymore because he hates that platform. I think it's R-Factor, right?
R-Factor, yeah, that was.
He doesn't enjoy racing on R-Factor. Nice. That was pretty clear to me. But no, iRacing. So I've looked into the way that you could get the telemetry from iRacing. That was not necessarily related to Multiviewer, just related to like overall, like maybe making a dashboard to see in real time how things progress, right? Platforms like iRacing, they don't offer a way to easily get like all of the driver viewpoints at once. So there isn't really anything out there right now that allows you to do that. However, if that would change and in the future that would be possible, yeah, sure, I would be interested in that. Like my main goal is just to make content more fun with more data, right? Yeah. And at the end of the day, that's what I like doing. But if that's streaming, right, that's totally fine as well. And who knows, maybe at some point, these racing series will say, okay, no longer. Because at the end of the day, I'm at their mercy, right? If they decide that this is not what they want for their platform, which they could, right? That's their right to say, okay, this is not what we intended the platform for. And we don't want users to use this app that they find so amazing. Like Reddit has been doing this recently with them killing off API access and charging third-party developers for access exorbitant amounts, right? So basically impossible for them to keep doing what they're doing right now. Yeah, F1 could go the same route, and if they do, I don't know what I would do.
They'd have a riot on their hand, I'm pretty sure. Like,
yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Straight up riot.
Yeah.
That would... I'd honestly kind of... Well, I'm not going to say I'd love to see that, but I'm definitely kind of curious of, like...
Yeah.
How crazy would F1 fans go if you took away their multi-viewers? Like...
Yeah. We did a questionnaire last year. So that was when we were much smaller, right? We've, like, doubled this year already in the first, 3 months of the season? So that's pretty insane. I think we're at 40,000 users now who use it. Not everyone uses it live. Some people use it for replays as well. But over the course of a month, there will be like 40,000 active users, which is insane. Right? I built this thing for myself.
That's wonderful.
At first, I didn't even intend this to be available for anyone else. Right? I built it literally for myself. And when I had the video part done, I wasn't like, okay, I'm going to release this to the world. It was only when I added the data overlays where I was like, okay, it would be criminal not to release this, right? If I would keep this to myself, that would be such a dick move.
You're such a good person. Thank you so much.
Yeah. As so many individuals within the F1 community have been so helpful, spreading the word, like selflessly just like telling people about it, right? They didn't have to, right? But they did, and they chose to promote it, and like without that help, I don't think any of you would be using Multiviewer right now, because I'm horrible at marketing. That's not what I enjoy doing either. I like building things, and like I will post a couple of fun like memes on Twitter if that gets some interaction with people. That's fun. But
I think I found out about it from ESPN tweeting something.
yeah, that's very possible. Yeah, although they didn't credit me or the app in that, but many others were in the comments saying, "Why didn't you credit Multiviewer for this?"
Honestly, F1 fans are so loyal; they will go to the mat for you. I love that.
It's amazing.
It has been lovely talking with you. We've covered a lot of topics, and it's been
we did
very eye-opening, and it's been lovely to have you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Multiviewer. It was so nice to have you here with us.
Yes, thank you. It was really lovely, and yeah, I really enjoyed talking to both of you, all of you actually.
Buck's here too.
Thank you for developing an absolutely amazing product. If you do not have Multiviewer yet, you should go check it out because it is absolutely phenomenal. It will revolutionize how you watch your race weekends.
Thank you.
Happy campers, happy campers.
This is going to be fun. This is going to be fun.
You know I'm using the second one, right?
I sound like Mickey Mouse.